Let's do this. My name is Lizelle. I'm the founder and CEO of Women Who Start Up. This little shindig started about 4 years ago. Give a big warm welcome for Kristin Darga.
I'm from Troy, Michigan. I went to Michigan State, go green. And I decided to become a journalism major because I wanted to write for a snowboarding magazine. And I did that as an intern, and then I was like, I'm done.
How long did you do the internship
Like, no
for?
joke. After the internship, I was like, peace out, journalism. And then I go teach snowboarding for a living. So I left Park City and I went to Michigan for 6 years. And I had my first business there. Michigan's economy started to like in 2008. So I was like, well, look, I mean, like I'm doing okay, and maybe I'll just move to New York. So I moved there and I got a job at Columbia Pictures, worked with A-list actors, and that was actually pretty awesome. I didn't really love the industry. And so I started looking for jobs, and I just kind of looked back over the years as what I love to do, and I ended up working for this company that was a nonprofit staffing firm or management firm. So I was a consultant to nonprofits for about 5 or 6 years. So I was working for this company. It was awesome. I actually really loved it, and I was very good at it. And I realize now it's the skills that I have to be with people and strategy and community, and that was something that I really brought to the nonprofits. And I built some really strong relationships there. Still have them today, and it's great to go back to New York and visit. So I started to just become disenchanted, and I felt there was no growth. Like I had already broken through the glass ceiling in that particular space, and I didn't really want to work for a nonprofit. I've always been pretty entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
What caused me to leave New York?
Tell me all the things.
Was I had a really incredible relationship with the man I thought I was going to marry. We broke up, and I was like, well, if I'm not going to get married, I'm going to go travel this country. So I did. I had this whole route I planned out over wine with my girlfriend, Becca.
As one does.
At the wine bar on the notepad from the bartender. Yeah, so I took my job remote. When I left New York, I lost my job a month in and started freelancing. Ended up in Vail, month one passed, and then it started dumping snow. It was like February, and I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
I don't want to go. Where do I have to go? May 5th, I was planning on leaving Colorado. I didn't want to stay here. No offense to everyone now, because I love it here now, but at the time, I really freaking hated Colorado. And I lived in, I loved Seattle, and I wanted to move back there. So May 1st, I'm like, all right, guys, it's my last ski day. It's a powder day, and I tore my ACL. And so poof.
Oh,
crap, I have to leave in 4 days. I have nowhere to live. So I stayed, and then I continued on with my marketing business. I had a client in Vail, and I drove up there every week to see him. I asked a good friend of mine like what she does to grow her business, because she had a wedding planning business for years in the event space. She just says, like, why don't we do this cleanse? And I was like, are you effing kidding me? Like, I need money. Yeah. I don't need this
fancy
cleanse thing. Like, I did it anyway because I'm like a sucker for health, and I've always been into it. So I did this cleanse, and ended up letting go of that client about 3 months later in the mountains because he was a really toxic client. But almost instantly, I started bringing new clients on that were I started to see that effect and the impact that it had on me. And I decided to look into coaching programs for entrepreneurs. But I couldn't take nutrition out of the equation. I couldn't take the self-care side out. Because I realized it's the whole person. It's the business, it's the finances, it's the fun, it's the working out, it's the nutrition, it's every part, relationships,
the whole picture.
You can't take one side out of it. Or you're like that wheel, that wobbly wheel on a bike. It doesn't work. There's no integrity in that. It hit me in 2015 to create Impact Founder. But 2014, I was dating someone who had a business. We were dating, things were, getting a little iffy, and his business was just taking off. I mean, he had 40% of the market in like 8 months with his software, and he was not stopping. It was not stopping at all. In fact, they were getting national attention. So I get this like weird chain of text messages from him, and he starts like getting really dark and quoting like dark literature to me. And I started inquiring a little bit more, and I started to get frightened. And so I had a friend I reached out to, and she's like, call the suicide prevention hotline. You just don't know what's gonna happen. So I did, and like, thank God I did, because he knew how. It was a matter of when he was gonna take his life. And I'm forever grateful for the people who are there. That was just one touch point that I had that really impacted me. So I kept coaching that year, and I put it behind me. He and I, lost contact. He went on with his life, I went on with mine. A year later, almost a year later, summer of 2015, I just hear over a couple of months about 2 to 3 founders who took their lives, 2 took their lives by suicide, and then another died in his sleep. So here I am like, what the heck is going on? This is a big deal. So this is something that I started to research and noticed a trend around, and so I looked into like stats, like is there any research out there? And I found an early study that was actually meant to prove that entrepreneurs are quote unquote touched with fire, and that's the study's name. And they didn't go on to prove it. But the stats from that show that about 30% of entrepreneurs experience depression. Like half of entrepreneurs have a mental health or a brain health condition, which is what a number of us have started to call it around here, brain health. So I'm like, well, crap, this is a thing, and like, I really feel compelled to do something about it, obviously because of my personal story, right? So Impact Founder is a multimedia company that tells stories of entrepreneurship. We talk about the successes and challenges entrepreneurs face. We have audio stories, we have a couple of video in the mix, we have photography, we do photo exhibits, and we have a coaching side to it. So it's you share all the things, and then what's next. And it started with a photography exhibit, and it's to empower entrepreneurs to like not feel isolated, to kind of come out of isolation and say what's really happening so that they don't struggle and they don't feel alone. Directly after I started to get this like beautiful energy of people connecting with other people, and it was like nonstop. And I sat across the table from this man, Tim Brown. And so he took a book out of his bag, and I've read it now, and it's called Into the Parade, and he slid it across the table. And he was like, this is the story of how I almost jumped off a building in New York City. It was like a defining moment for me for 2 reasons. One, I walked away from that like, fuck.
It's hard.
Fuck.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Like, people are talking to me about suicide and depression. Like, I didn't want this.
So you were shitting yourself because you're not a psychotherapist.
No. This is not my expertise. I'm a health coach.
Right. And so that's intimidating.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
It was a lot. I just like the responsibility of what I built hit me. And that was like, I actually did talk about this more because I built this awesome thing. And then the responsibility of it, like people sharing with me and their openness, like made me go, pew. It was like 3 months of me trying to work it out. So that was definitely, I was depressed, I was confused, I was a health coach, and I was like, what do I do? But really, it was just around the responsibility of it and coming to like be good with what I was called to do. And it was really overwhelming to know myself as a person big enough to take on a topic like this. Friday was a really tough day. Like
this Friday.
Like cried 6 hours tough.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
This Impact Founder.
And it happens like once every 6 months, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Like really happens, like visceral. And I got myself out of it with my mindset. I'm really good at shifting my mindset. I'm a coach, I have a coach, it's just, part of my life. And I'm sitting across the table from someone, and she'd kind of gone silent for a while. And she shows up, we have a meeting, and I'm just like, what is going on? And I really counted on her. And she says, I'm just gonna be straight with you. I'm just gonna be straight. Like, I have bipolar, and I know you can listen to me say that. And I don't know any other situation where I could say that in like this environment. Every time I try to quit sometimes. Someone comes up into my life and shows me that it's worth it. They're like, I know that this woman, the rest of her life, will remember being able to share that with me in that setting, in a business setting. And that's not easy to do. It took a lot for her to do that. You know, I'm really committed to changing the conversations that we have as entrepreneurs. I'm really committed to taking away that facade and being real. That commitment is what keeps me going, for sure. And every time I try to quit, somebody shows up. So the mindset isn't really it, it's just really the commitment. It's what I'm committed to.
With that, take care of yourselves and keep climbing. Bye.